This is unprecedented. It's never been this high. It breaks the pattern of running it up in war and paying it down in peace. No one roots for war, but they happen. And it's worse than that because of modern monetary theory.
Amidst the tangled web of wishful thinking, denial, and delay, there exists a haunting possibility, a collapse that seems to loom ever closer. But how did we arrive at this height, and what awaits us on the other side? As the fragments of our fragile system threaten to crumble, a series of scenarios emerge. Perhaps, in our blind stumble, we unwittingly stumble into the jaws of collapse. And when that moment arrives, a response will be summoned, a response that takes the form of executive orders. But what lies in the wake of such a response? Could it be a descent into the darkness we dare not imagine? A neo-fascism lurking in the shadows, ready to seize control? Take a step back and let history whisper its tales. The international monetary system has witnessed collapse not once, not twice, but 3 times within the past century. In those tumultuous years of 1914, 1939 and 1971, the system shattered, reshaping our world with each fracture. And now, on the brink of a potential 4th collapse, the frequency of these ruinous events becomes strikingly evident. But hold on, dear listener, for the story does not end with despair. Do not envision a world of caves and canned goods. No, when the monetary system crumbles, a different scene unfolds. The powers that govern our trading and finance realms convene, their intentions focused on the grand negotiation, a recutting of the rules on the game. It is here amidst the chaos that the seeds of a new order are sown, birthing a future we can only imagine. As we gaze into the inevitable collapse of the international monetary system, we find ourselves pondering the potential scenarios that may emerge in its wake. What would the future hold for the world's financial landscape? Could a new set of rules be established through a modern-day gathering akin to Bretton Woods Conference? Let us explore 4 possible scenarios that could shape the future. The first scenario involves the emergence of a single reserve currency, such as special drawing rights, SDRs, or even gold. This would require a concerted effort to establish a new global monetary anchor, a stable point of reference. However, the road ahead is treacherous, as such a solution would face significant challenges and uncertainties. The second scenario envisages a world with multiple reserve currencies. Currently, the dominance of the US dollar is gradually diminishing, as other currencies like the euro, Australian dollar, and Canadian dollar gain prominence. This scenario may seem harmonious, with various currencies sharing the responsibility. Yet, it carries its own set of risks. With multiple central banks in control, the potential for discord and economic tensions could intensify, leading to a cascade of currency wars. The third scenario paints a gloomier picture, a collapse followed by something worse. In this scenario, the international monetary system crumbles under its own weight, plunging the world into a state of chaos and uncertainty. The absence of a stable anchor could exacerbate the already turbulent global financial landscape, leading to unforeseen consequences and profound economic hardship. Lastly, we have the Kumbaya solution, where nations strive to cooperate and find common ground. However, this idyllic vision is marred by practical challenges. Without a clear anchor, this harmonious coexistence would lack stability, as each central bank acts independently, potentially leading to a disarray of misaligned policies. The next scenario we explore is one that holds favour among the elites, which includes finance ministers, treasury secretaries, academics, central bankers, and other policymakers. This scenario revolves around the concept of special drawing rights, SDRs, a form of world money issued by the International Monetary Fund. To grasp the essence of SDRs, let's simplify it. Just as the Federal Reserve can print dollars and the European Central Bank can print euros, the IMF can print SDRs. It is essentially a global reserve currency that can be created and distributed as needed. This flexibility allows for the potential reflation and reliquefaction of the global economy. Interestingly, the IMF has a 10-year plan to establish the SDR as a global reserve currency. This information is publicly available on their website and not shrouded in secrecy. To illustrate the creeping influence of SDRs in our current system, let's consider an example. In 2009, the United States Treasury granted the IMF authority to provide $100 billion. The IMF allocated a significant portion of this amount, with 91% of the loans and advances going towards bailing out Europe and Mexico, while only 9% were directed to the rest of the world. This scenario raises questions about the transparency and intentions behind these actions. It prompts us to contemplate whether the full truth was conveyed to Congress when the President stated that the allocation was primarily for developing and emerging market economies. The evolving role of SDRs and the impact on global finance remains a subject of ongoing debate and scrutiny. It is worth noting that countries such as Korea, Indonesia, India, Brazil, Thailand, and Malaysia did not receive more than 9% of the IMF funds. The majority of the allocated money went towards aiding Europe. This raises concerns about the fairness and distribution of funds, which may lead to questions from the American public. Moving on to the third outcome, let's briefly discuss the gold standard. A gold standard establishes a relationship between paper money and gold. However, a few crucial questions need consideration when implementing a gold standard. Firstly, how do we define money? There are various technical definitions such as MO, M1 and M2, which need to be clarified. Secondly, what is the appropriate reserve ratio? Should all paper money have a 1-to-1 backing with gold, or can a lower percentage suffice? Historically, a successful gold standard have been maintenance with a reserve ratio of 20% in England and 40% in the United States. Lastly, which nations should participate? Implementing a gold standard solely in the United States would be unwise, as it would devalue other currencies and lead to deflationary pressures. Considering these criteria, it becomes evident that if the United States were to adopt a gold standard alone, it would repeat the mistakes made by Winston Churchill in 1925. To ensure stability, a broad international agreement would be necessary. It is worth noting that the United States and Europe currently possess the largest gold reserves, providing them with significant influence in any future international monetary conference. However, it is important to mention that China's gold holdings are not entirely transparent, and their reported amount of 1,000 tons may be closer to 4,000 tons. Let's explore the first scenario, the global money with 40% backing. In this case, the price of gold would need to reach approximately $7,000 an ounce to support the money supply without deflation. This price ensures a non-deflationary environment. In the second scenario, the global money supply with 100% backing, the price of gold would need to be around $44,000 per ounce. The collapse scenario is the most likely outcome, driven by wishful thinking, denial risk, misunderstanding, delay, and poor policy choices. In response, executive orders may be implemented, and there could be a rise in neo-fascist tendencies after social unrest. Let's discuss the basic principle of the quantity theory of money. You may have encountered this concept in your introductory macroeconomics class. The equation is MV equals PQ, where M represents the money supply, V represents velocity, which is the turnover of money, P represents the price index, and Q represents the real part of nominal GDP. However, if you choose not to spend your money, the velocity of money becomes zero. Remember, $3 trillion multiplied by 0 equals 0. Therefore, an economy requires velocity to function effectively. The money supply, M, multiplied by velocity, V, equals nominal GDP, which represents the gross dollar value of all goods and services in the economy. Nominal GDP consists of two components, Q, which represents the real part, and P, which reflects the price index, indicating inflation or deflation. To achieve this, policymakers employ two primary tools. The first is implementing negative real interest rates. This occurs when inflation surpasses a nominal interest rate. Negative real rates benefit borrowers since they repay loans using devalued currency, essentially receiving money from the bank. For example, if the nominal rate is 2% on a 10-year note and inflation is 3%, there is a negative real rate of 1%, which encourages borrowing. The second tool involves introducing an inflationary shock. Policymakers seek to deliver a sudden increase in inflation to stimulate spending and economic activity. This shock aims to alter the velocity of money and create an environment conducive to economic growth. The government's perspective on inflation and deflation is asymmetrical. They require inflation and cannot tolerate deflation due to its impact on tax revenues. Inflation allows the government to effectively collect taxes, as it erodes the purchasing power of individuals and increases their taxable income. On the other hand, deflation enhances the real standard of living for individuals by increasing their purchasing power, but it reduces the government's ability to collect taxes since it is a challenging tax deflation. Thus, the government's preference for inflationary policy stems from their need to maintain tax revenues. That was all for today. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like and turn off the notification bell for more updates. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.